This is a Paragon RA-10 tuning assembly and a Paragon DA-2 detector amplifier. I have this radio operating. It's a very difficult to tune radio, and understanding this is antenna coupling here. This appears to be regeneration, and this is a Vero coupler. I'm sure that they had a booklet that described exactly how to tune this radio, but I'm kind of playing it by ear. But let me fire it up.
Discovery and when she took the stand. In Minneapolis, with federal officials following a deadly shooting of a woman by ICE agent. Federal officials say she tried to use her car to ram the agent, but local officials dispute that. The longest-serving Democrat in the House of Representatives, Maryland's Steny Hoyer, announced that he will be leaving Congress at the end of this term.
Now there's something. This radio dates back to 1920. It's the oldest radio in my 1920s radio collection. But there's something missing in this DA-2 detector amplifier, and that's namely the grid leak circuit. This is my grid leak circuit that I made up here, which is just a 1 mega ohm resistor and a 0.001 capacitor. Now those values could be changed accordingly, but I want to show you first of how much a circuit like this improves the audio response of a radio like this. Let me turn it back on.
A woman from Hartford is charged with hitting a 4-year-old in West Bend. 8-year-old Monica Larson faces one felony for causing injury while driving under the influence and several drug-related misdemeanors. She allegedly ran over the toddler while looking for a parking spot at the Sunset restaurant. At Center on Monday, the child suffered liver damage but is suspected to be okay. Larson is due back in.
Okay, I'm going to put the detector, the grid leak detector, or the grid leak circuit into the detector circuit by simply connecting it. This is where the grid of the detector goes in. Just adding this, and you should notice a difference. Quite a bit louder.
Financial planning at every level. Eric's Comprehensive Wealth, Eric's Private Client.
See how much of a difference these little adjustments will make. It's interesting how this thing tunes up.
Government lawyers told the judge this week only 1% of 2 points at 69 public. The Supreme Court
This, I believe, is a band switch. You notice that most of the stations are at one end of the dial.
Hopefully a simple analogy. Think about funding for any school district as a bucket. The dollars are the water. The state pours in some water first. Whatever the state doesn't fill in that bucket, that's what local districts. The governor's 400 veto.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the little grid leak circuit I put in out and put the jumper back in to show the difference. Notice how much quieter it is? It works much better with this. Big improvement. So when Paragon built this, and this is original on the inside, there was no grid leak circuit in this detector amplifier. But if you look online on the pictures, there must be later models that have it in. It's clearly in. This is as built, and it was never in this detector amplifier. So that's interesting how that worked out. It's not very selective, is it?
boxes. Obviously, we're failing at that, and it was supposed to ensure that school districts,
So that's it.
students, and
My 1920s radio.
but it was supposed.
Virtually the oldest radio I have in my collection. I collect 1920s radios, so this is the oldest one.